All right. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate you guys joining us. It is another Sunday recap, which means we just had another great day of action in the gridiron in college football. Got a big time slate coming up in the NFL. We're going to recap everything college football, preview everything in the NFL, and more. But before we do, and before I bring in our co-host and former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, make sure you hit that like button, you hit that subscribe button, and if you want, turn that notification bell on so you'll know every time we drop content. We go live every weekday morning. 6:30 to 8 Central. That's 7:30 to 9 Eastern. Coney, I got the times right this time. Good to see you again this morning. It's been a hell of a push up to this point, getting into week 10 now of college football. Just overview of yesterday, man. It keeps on delivering with some big-time games.
College football in October, Jake. What more can you say? We're in the thick of it. I'm having more fun this college football season than I can remember in recent years. Also, how you feeling? You doing good after the one-chip challenge?
Look, like I said, sometimes you got to stare a dragon in the eyes. You can find in our videos the one chip challenge. I feel like I dominated it. I feel like in some ways I beat Michael Knowles, but the way I approached it was, did I do the one chip challenge? Or did the chip do the one Jake challenge?
That's what you said that the other day, and I couldn't even get it out of my head. That chip did the one Jake Crane challenge, and I think it lost.
No, it lost. It lost really hard, very badly. I'm talking about Penn State and Auburnish.
Chat's already popping today.
It's already popping. Look, let's go ahead and get into this thing. Let me catch this running away, chat. I love it. Josh Phillips, $1.99 donation. Can y'all please sing Rocky Top? Let's go Vols. All right, real quick, Cone. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Rocky Top will always be home sweet home to me.
Yeah, good old Rocky Top.
Woo! Rocky Top, Tennessee.
I got him number 1, Jake. I'm sorry.
Hey, look, I'm telling you right now, we're going to find out this weekend. I still got Georgia number 1. But let's go ahead and let's start in the Big Ten with Penn State. Obviously playing Ohio State at home, a game that we talked about this all week. And I felt like Penn State was going to make this closer than what people thought. I know the final score was a 13-point difference, but if you look at this game, especially for the first 3.5 quarters, really 3 3/4 quarters, Penn State was able to dominate or be able to stay in it by playing just Penn State ball. That they were getting away with Ohio State, getting into the red zone and kicking field goals. You did have Ruggles miss that one long one, but Penn State was keeping themselves in the game. They were using modified runs in the running back pass game. We saw that, how quickly they were getting it out to Parker Washington, who made a couple huge catches on third down. And, it was almost like the Syracuse formula against Clemson last week. Everything was going the way that Penn State needed it to go, but Ohio State and the best teams always, there's a point where they decide to win the game. And in a 45-second span, Ohio State was able to score 14 points. We know what they were able to do defensively with Tia Maloa. I know I didn't say that right, but he absolutely freaked out, whether it was intercepting passes in big situations, returning them for touchdowns, had a hell of a pick early in the game, and you survived if you were Penn State. You thought you had survived Sean Clifford's destruction. You thought you had gotten past it when he turned it over the first couple times, but the run game was working fine. Like I said, that intermediate passing game was working fine, and they were taking shots every now and then. But Ohio State, Travion Henderson, when Mayan Williams went down, we know how talented Travion is, able to hit the big run. And then C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr. may be the most deadly wide receiver quarterback combination, at least from a production standpoint, outside of, I guess you could say Jalen Hyatt and Hendon Hooker right now with the way that they're connected in Tennessee. But Cone was a lot better game than some think. And I do want to say this. I had Penn State plus 14, all right, at plus 103. It looks like they're going to cover the whole game. They throw that pick. He throws that pick to the defensive end, jumps up on the screen to go up 20. What does Sean Clifford do? Take him right down the field. Garbage time touchdown, baby. It's a cover.
Oh, well, you were celebrating while I was hanging my head because I had the opposite. I had the Buckeyes minus 16.5. But yeah, what a weird game because it was so close for so long. The Buckeyes end up just, it turns into a rout with 6 minutes left in the game. And then Penn State comes back down with that backdoor cover. But yeah, I think, what you always say, time over talent or time plus talent equals a victory. And I think that you saw that even from a Buckeye team right now that I think is not running running the football as well as they would like, certainly. And you saw Mayan Williams go down, and what Travion Henderson we had as a top 5 back leading into the season. You saw him come out, have a few really key runs late in that game. I think if you're a Buckeye fan, though, you want to be able to see that run game throughout the entirety of a football game. When I think of every great Buckeye team, Jake, throughout history, not only do they pair a good quarterback with great wide receivers like this one has, but they always have this elite level bruising running back to Eddie George, Maurice Brett, Beanie Wells, J.K. Dobbins, Ezekiel Elliott, and now they have 2 great running backs right now, but both of them are a little bit banged up. That's what I'm interested to see as we move forward throughout the rest of the season. But to me, really, the Penn State defense showed up, Jake. I mean, they were keeping their pressure exotic. They were getting to C.J. Stroud when they needed to. They were holding the Buckeyes to field goals, but you just can't turn the football over if you're Sean Clifford.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of Kentucky and Penn State both did this. You had to thread the needle a lot better than you did. If you turning the ball over basically gives you no chance. But I do want to say this about Penn State's defense. I was so surprised at the amount of space that Penn State gave up in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
They were playing that 2 high safety set. They were trying to keep everything in front of them, and I understand that. But the linebackers were flying up at the snap, even without a run action. So you saw, think about it. You have your 2 safeties deeper than normal, and your 2 inside backers are flying up on everything. That creates that huge space. And hell, there were a couple times, even on a 3rd down, where Penn State brought pressure. I think they brought 6 or 7, and they left the middle of the field wide open. They did not change the cushion in between the safety and the slot. And they were just able to throw a slant. I think there was some miscommunication there. I don't think they attacked the downs schematically the way that they should have. I get what they were trying to do. Kind of like when you play the Chiefs, I'm going to keep everything in front, make you go 8 to 10 plays, kick field goals, and see if I can't win the game at the end. It just shocked me that they didn't adjust the safeties at least a little bit or tell the linebackers, hey, boys, go ahead and slow down. Justin Decker, $5 donation. I'm dropping the bag on Tennessee money line over UGA. All right, Cone, let's go ahead and get into this Tennessee-Kentucky game. We talked about it all week. We said there was a very narrow path for Kentucky to be able to win this game. That there wasn't 4 different ways that they could do it. There wasn't 3 different ways that they could do it. It was really maybe 2, possibly 1. And what was that? Limit possessions, which means being good in the run game, which means Will Levis being good on play action, which means being effective in the intermediate game, and keep the Tennessee offense off the field. Not only did you not do that, not saying the run game wasn't good. Chris Rodriguez was able to get some stuff going on the ground, but you did the exact opposite. You gave them more possessions. You turned the ball over. You gave them the ability to go ahead and drop over 20 on you in the first half. And the minute that Tennessee got up, whether it was Jalen Hyatt being wide open early, and Kentucky fought back a little bit. Now they went back, scored that touchdown, missed the extra point. But it felt like the minute that Tennessee went up 14-6, you looked around at Kentucky and you were like, I don't think these guys are going to be able to stop them consistently. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up on the scoreboard consistently. But I think it does speak a little bit to that Tennessee defense. All right, that even when the offense is the one in the spotlight, even when we're talking about Jalen Hyatt and Hendon Hooker and all the guys running, Cedric Tillman being back, I thought the defense did a really good job of tackling in space. And when I watch Tennessee going forward, and when I look at Tennessee, I know the offense is most likely going to be there. Can those DBs in that secondary tackle in space, and can they continue to hold teams to field goals while they score touchdowns? Because what is going to decide this Tennessee-Georgia game, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, the thing that's going to decide it is the red zone. Who can score touchdowns in the red zone and who's going to kick field goals? Because I don't see either one of these defenses being able to really stop the other offense in between the 20s. So when that field shrinks, when you got to get into your bag as a play caller, when as a defensive play caller, you got to think, am I bringing the horses or am I putting them in the stable? That's what it's going to come down to. That's where the money's going to be made. But Tennessee did not overlook Kentucky. They ran over Kentucky, David.
Yeah. I mean, I think they have a great claim to be the number 1 team in the country when the polls come out this week. Fantastic performance there, Jake. And look, I think the Bulldogs will still be favored this next weekend at home. I think that Tennessee would likely be favored if the game were in Knoxville. But we are headed for a juggernaut of a football game next Saturday, and I cannot wait for it. My biggest question with Tennessee is one that we've all had, which is their defense, right? Like it's great to score 40 and 50 points every game, but at some point when you get late in the season and the weather starts turning on you and you're playing, tougher teams in the playoffs, can your defense really stand up and take a punch? Well, holding this Kentucky team to, what was it, 6 points yesterday?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a statement. And this isn't like Will Levis was injured. Will Levis was in there. And it's not like you caught Kentucky early when Chris Rodriguez wasn't playing. He played yesterday and played good. Chris Rodriguez has a bright future playing on Sundays one day, Jake. He's a fantastic running back. This is a statement from this Tennessee team. And I'll tell you what else was impressive. Like you talked about the switch route early against Kentucky when they scored. It reminded me some of what Oregon was doing against UCLA last week. You know how they were hitting the rail route into the boundary and just was just destroying UCLA with that. Even right out of the gate this week, Tennessee's running a switch route stacked right there. Kentucky loses Jalen Hyatt. I mean, I get if Tennessee's just hitting new wide receivers for big plays, but this is the guy that had 5 touchdowns against Alabama. I mean, you might want to cover him.
And in reality, and you call it switch, we call it post wheel. I mean, that's all it was. That's all it was. You were getting 2 stacked, or you're getting 2 side by side. You were getting a post by the outside guy and a wheel by the inside guy, and they didn't switch. We used to, especially when we were in zone coverage. So if we're playing quarters against that 2x2 set, everybody take your mind to the screen here. So you got the doubles 2x2 set out of 10 personnel. That's the offensive personnel. 2 wide receivers out there. You've got a corner in zone. You've got a safety in zone because they did it into the boundary. So typically into the boundary is not the strength of the formation offensively. When it is the strength of the formation offensively, we call that FIB, formation in the boundary. So the nickel's on the opposite side. So you have 2 over 2 basically. Pretty simple. Corner should be off in the zone. Safety should be off at depth. The minute you see them switch, we got to make a switch call from the corner and the safety. The only thing that we used to be able to do to take the tag away off the switch call is if we check to man. If for some reason we wanted to invert that safety and move that corner back, or maybe pull that corner up to press, put that safety down a little bit, we used to make a snake call is what we would do, which is we're going to man this. We're not going to play match, or we're not going to switch out of the zone coverage. But they never switched to the guy running the wheel cone like you meant, the guy that just scored 5 touchdowns.
And they did it several times.
Alabama.
They did it several times. And you know that Tennessee is not just out-talenting people, because it was a schematical adjustment. Tennessee had a different formation. They ended up stacking Jalen Hyatt behind it and hit that big play. So I think Tennessee is cooking on all cylinders. Another really good thing, if you're a Tennessee fan right now, to see, it's not just 1 or 2 big plays and then offenses off the field. They had a drive yesterday of 15 plays for 75 yards. They had another drive of 10 plays. Those 2 drives combined for over 8 minutes of possession time in the football game. You love to see that if you're a Tennessee fan right now.
No, without a doubt. And we got a question here and a donation from our buddy Jimbo Eagle. Remember, donation gets your question asked quicker. David, I tried to pull some strings with Dino Babers so you could go under center for us when Garrett Shrader went out. Also, our run defense, talking about Syracuse, has been horrible lately. This was my biggest surprise of the day, outside of South Carolina looking as bad as what they did, looking like they could just roll their helmets out there and beat Missouri. I watched this game from start to finish. It starts with a pick 6. Syracuse, it felt like they were always in catch-up, but there was no rhythm in this offense, and I'll tell you why. I will tell you why. I was shocked that Robert and I, Dino Babers, the whole group over there, the quarterback run game with Garrett Shrader, they didn't even go to it but a couple times, and it worked. They ripped off 8-9 yards. You know what makes Sean Tucker so dangerous in this offense, and Gaston and these guys that they hit down the field? And you're always like, how the hell are all these crossers always wide open for Syracuse? Why is Sean Tucker always open in the flat? Because Garrett Shrader is such a threat to run. And I know he's probably beat up from the Clemson game. I get it. But if you're beat up, don't take your ass out there and play. We're 6-1. All right. We're trying to have the best year we've had in a long time. But Garrett Shrader not being able to run the ball, and I'm talking about power read, I'm talking about Q power, I'm talking about trucks, zone read, keeping it, being that threat. Him not doing that, it felt like it took away a third of that offense. It felt like the defense could say, all right, not worried about Garrett Shrader running the ball. We will focus on Sean Tucker and build it from the front to the back. If you want to throw Gaston on the crosser, that's fine, because we don't need a spy. We don't need to spy Sean Tucker at the snap. We don't need to spy him post-snap, because he wasn't a threat to run. And then all of a sudden he goes out. Thought the backup quarterback, Del Rio Wilson, came in and did a decent job. That's asking too much for him. But Syracuse now 6-2. That has nothing to do with the run defense. Okay, I think that's the best point about what you made, Jimbo Eagle. Syracuse, Notre Dame came into that game thinking they were going to push Syracuse around up front, and they did. There were times where the back wasn't getting touched for 4 to 5 yards, and that's why it always felt like Syracuse was playing catch-up. It seemed like on offense, Syracuse was always in 3rd and 8, and for Notre Dame, they were always in 3rd and 2. And as a fan or somebody that watches football, the more you see that, that dictates in your mind who's dominating the game, and Notre Dame was able to do it really from start to finish. There was a little bit of a threat there in the second half. Syracuse got a couple stops, scored a touchdown to bring it within a touchdown, and got the ball back, but Del Rio Wilson threw a pick. Notre Dame was able to make that play, and it's so funny. If you watch Marcus Freeman in that second half on that interception that got tipped, you can see the look in his eyes, and you can read his lips, and he said, "Oh boy, we needed that," because the momentum was absolutely shifting back to Syracuse in that Carrier Dome, which I swear is built over an Indian burial ground on top of a pet cemetery.
Well, I appreciate Jimbo Eagle's confidence in me, and I do have a winning record against Notre Dame, but I would like for that to remain intact, so I will stay retired. Great win by Notre Dame here. 246 rushing yards, Jake. These backs, Audric Estime and Logan Diggs, I love the way they run. They were running downhill the entire game, very physical. Look, Drew Pine, he kind of is what he is, right? He's inaccurate with the football, but he can make enough plays to be able to allow that running game to step up. I mean, this is a great win, and now you're going to host Clemson. Right. And we're going to find out. You have a chance to shock the world. You have a chance to really rescue this season in many ways when the Tigers come to South Bend. So we're going to see more next weekend, Jake.
Without a doubt. All right. Jimbo said he's headed up to the Buffalo Bills game, which to me is basically the closest thing to a college atmosphere that you're going to see. But he said, I got any suggestions for who I should pick up, what I should pick up for the tailgate? Look, man, beer and meat. Let's be honest. I mean, beer and meat. It's the caveman diet out there at the tailgate. We all know what's up. Kaneka sausage would not be bad. I don't know if they sell that up in Buffalo. I don't know if they've been blessed with that gift yet up there. But all right, Michael Hotchfelder here, Coney. He says, Cone, after watching Ohio State struggle against Penn State, are you more confident in Michigan's chances of winning the Big Ten? With that, let's go ahead and get into Michigan's dismantling of Michigan State, which we all saw coming a little scary early, David. Little scary early. I know you're probably a little nervy early. The green ones coming in were able to hang around. They were running the ball successfully early in the game, but eventually talent over time equals results.
Yeah, but look, Michigan just has to accept the fact that Michigan State is always going to play them tough. They just are. It is a true rivalry game. And in many ways, over the last decade, that game has meant more to Michigan State, which has been very disappointing. So yesterday, if you beat them by 1 point, take Paul Bunyan, keep him in Ann Arbor, send them back to East Lansing and celebrate. That's enough of a victory. So by 22 points, look, to the first half of his question, as it relates to the Buckeyes and Penn State's a good football team. Penn State's a good football team. I was surprised that they kept it as close as they did. I think you saw just how explosive the Buckeyes can be in the game. That's what worries me the most when I think about the Wolverines and the Buckeyes meeting up. And you know what? A lot of people say, well, it happens to be in the Horseshoe this year, but what if it were on a neutral site? Neutral site, Jake, I immediately think of an indoor game, which I actually think Michigan would fare better late in November in some of the elements, even if that game ends up being on the road. So that's going to dictate a lot of this. What's the weather going to be like that week that they play? Michigan did a lot of good things yesterday, but I still think that they have room for improvement. I'm a little bit worried about the secondary. When I think about Marvin Harrison Jr. and a healthy Jackson Smith and Jigba and some of these wide receivers that CJ Stroud has to throw to, I really worry about Michigan's secondary. Or let's just say if Michigan were to be able to go match up against a Tennessee in a playoff game or against Georgia with Brock Bowers and some of those weapons, that's a little bit concerning for me. But the front seven has really come on strong, Jake, on both sides of the football. I still need to see J.J. McCarthy take that next step. He did a few things really good yesterday, especially in the run game and the undesigned run game, Jake. When they had designed scheduled runs for J.J. McCarthy yesterday, they didn't work. Michigan State was ready for those. It was the scrambles and a couple of the zone reads that I was really impressed with J.J. McCarthy. That's what we're going to need to see as defenses start selling out more and more on that run game, because I do feel that Michigan is one Blake Corum injury away from really being just slightly above average as a football team. But as it sits right now, Blake Corum is healthy. He rushed for another 175 yesterday. I do think he has a chance to be the best running back in the country and maybe be a Heisman Trophy finalist, not just a candidate. But the biggest thing for me, Jake, was watching Michigan State stay in 2 high safeties the entire game. 2 high safeties on 1st and 10, and J.J. McCarthy even threw the football a few of those times.
Yeah.
I wanted to teleport to Ann Arbor and grab him by the face mask and say, if they stay in 2 high safeties and don't roll one of those down on 1st and 10, give it to Blake Corum every single
time. I don't care if we run it every single play. It's math. It's math and geometry. Colleen, I do want to take Notre Dame. Again, defensively, we know Notre Dame is good defensively. We talked about that with Marcus Freeman. And I know they came out and set the tone with the pick 6, but I really think it was the offensive line of Notre Dame that set the tone in that game, the way they were literally living at linebacker level, pushing that defensive line of Syracuse back, and also the 5th block punt. You look at them in South Carolina, are there 2 better punt block units in the country? I don't think so. So I do want to give love there to Notre Dame, Colleen. So there you go. There's your fix of Notre Dame love. Speaking of love, we talked about surprises. I wasn't as shocked with Kansas State beating Oklahoma State as I was at how bad South Carolina played at Missouri and how bad Syracuse played at home against Notre Dame with the year that Notre Dame has had coming into that game and the way Syracuse has played at home. The most surprising part of this was obviously that Adrian Martinez was not playing when this happened. I mean, Will Howard has come in after Adrian went out and absolutely balled. The 48 points is a ton. Deuce Vaughn went off. We can look at the rushing yardage. We can look at how it's set up to play action game. But Kansas State's defense was absolutely suffocating in this game. I'm talking about strangulation. Like, where are the ligature marks? We know how they died. Every time Spencer Sanders tried to escape, every time they got past the 50, going in, I'm talking about Oklahoma State with the ball, the Kansas State defense either made a huge play to back up Oklahoma State, send them way off schedule, or Oklahoma State self-destructed with a penalty or a turnover. I was very, very impressed with how Kansas State was able to keep the momentum, not only when they were up 14-0 or 17-0, but when it was 48-0, Kansas State was still flying around like it was 0-0. And I think that shows you with Coach Kleiman what type of culture they have there when the backup quarterback can come in and ball, and you are harassing a experienced team with a veteran quarterback, one that just beat Texas, a good football team. But Kansas State, outside of the hiccup against Tulane, you take away the hiccup against Tulane, and it's a lot different outlook right now for Kansas State with who they have going down the stretch. But I think it just shows you this Kansas State program has culture. It's not just about one player. It's not just about one transfer. It's about how you play. And that's what Coach Kleiman brought from North Dakota State. You're seeing that at Kansas State. We know who we are. We think we know who you are, and we trust ourselves more. That's what you're seeing from Kansas State. Huge win for them. Huge statement at home. And regardless if Adrian Martinez is able to start next week or not, you should have a whole hell of a lot of confidence now that you have a 2-game sample size. Because remember, Adrian Martinez got hurt first series 2 games ago. So you really have 2 complete games in 2022 that have been played by Will Howard. And you know what your defense is. So I thought it was the most dominant performance of the day was Kansas State, without a doubt.
This is the shocker of the year for me so far, Jake. I mean, if you told me that Kansas State would beat Oklahoma State 48-45, okay, I could see that for sure. They're a good football team. Even if you said that they would do that with their backup quarterback, Will Howard, okay, because I've seen him play and I know he can play football. But 48-0 just absolutely shocks me. And they did it with 495 yards of total offense. And this is Kansas State. This is the largest ever shutout win over a top 10 team as a lower ranked team in college football. So, I mean, the deuce was loose. Will Howard had it going. It was fun to watch, to be honest.
It really was. It was an unbelievably dominating performance. All right, let's go to TCU in West Virginia right here. Remember, if you throw a donation, Justin Decker, I'm going to get to your AD question about Auburn. It looks like, at least for now, Auburn's going to hire John Cohen. Hold on, let me throw it up real quick. Cohen, when I look at this TCU team, they go on the road in a game and we've talked about the pressure on Neil Brown, who's a guy we like, the head coach at West Virginia. This would have been a huge one for West Virginia, who really has underperformed with JT Daniels transferring in there, with what they thought they were going to be able to do with Keaton Ford. You can go down the list going all the way back to the Pitt game. But TCU finds another way to win a game on the road. Was it the prettiest? No. But when it came down to it, who came through for them? That wide receiver room. We look at Ohio State. We look at Tennessee, right? You look at this group. Those, to me, when we're looking at wide receiver rooms, TCU has as much depth and versatility and home run hitting power as anybody. We need to really start talking about Max Duggan for Heisman. Okay, we really need to legitimately put that out there. His numbers leave it to bear. They are still undefeated, and TCU is setting themselves up. I know you got to go to Texas. Excuse me. I know you got to go to Baylor, but this TCU team is setting themselves up, and people say, "Oh, I don't believe in TCU because it's TCU. I know the defense is going to post Malone fall apart at some point." They tried to yesterday, but when they needed to stop, they got it. Max Duggan and them were able to put the game away, whether it was Darius Davis, whether it was Judkins, whether it was Johnston. They made the plays that they had to, Cone, and TCU remains undefeated. Is TCU an elite team in your eyes?
I think so, and I think we really have to start acknowledging the fact that they could be unbeaten, and if TCU goes unbeaten as the Big 12 champ, they're going to the college football playoff, as they should. And when you look at the road games coming up at Texas and at Baylor, and this is after you have Texas Tech at home, those are, TCU shouldn't shy away from those, because that gives you a great opportunity to increase your strength of schedule. As far as yesterday's game goes, West Virginia, Jake, had a nice game plan. They were running the pin and pull game in the run game. They had some reverse wrinkles off that. They were getting the screen game involved. I thought West Virginia really attacked TCU's defense as well as they could. But at the end of the day, look, Max Duggan and the boys they ended up pulling it off, and it was a great win. Trying to think, the big plays is another thing that I had written down. TCU was I think they had 3 touchdowns, maybe of over 50 yards, something like that. That's very Tennessee-ish to me, and it proves that Tennessee can strike from anywhere at any time.
No, it really is. And I think there is some similarities you can draw from TCU and Tennessee, kind of the way they're put together. Obviously, Tennessee goes faster than TCU, but TCU does have that element. But what they're able to do after the catch, I think, is really what separates that wide receiver room. I mean, you talk about broken tackles and guys being able to score from 70 out. And it takes so much pressure off a play caller and off a quarterback when you can take a short pass and turn it into the long one. Call it the road to glory theory. I'm going to keep throwing it underneath. Break a tackle, score from 70 out. That all goes to the
So TCU, Tennessee, and even the Buckeyes right now. How do you compare the 3 of those? Because they're so similar on offense and defense. Which do you think would break first in terms of their balance as teams?
Well, if I had to rate those teams, I would probably go Tennessee 1, Ohio State 2, TCU 3, just because I think out of the 3, TCU does have the defense that I trust the least now that McCullough is coming back for Tennessee. I think Tennessee and TCU's defense is closer than what Ohio State's defense is. I think Ohio State's defense is more talented and deeper than either one of those. I think the way that TCU and Tennessee play and who they are, they're a lot more similar. But when you look at Ohio State, you look at that defense being able to come through there late and really kind of shut the door. I do think Ohio State is a more complete team, in my opinion, than either one of those teams, than Tennessee and TCU. I know people will say, Jake, Tennessee's beaten better teams than Ohio State has. I get that. I promise you I get it 100%. But on a neutral field, if you were to give me Ohio State's defensive players and Tennessee's defensive players, I think I would choose Ohio State's defensive players. I think a lot of Tennessee fans would choose Ohio State's defensive players. Now, when you look on the offensive side, even with the witches that Ohio State has, I think there's a legitimate conversation that you would want Tennessee's roster over Ohio State's on offense. As crazy as that sounds, as absolutely crazy as that sounds, I don't think that is a stretch at all. All right, Justin, we're going to get to this Florida Georgia game here in 1 second, but it looks like Auburn's going to hire John Cohen as the AD, which means no Hugh Freeze at the head coaching position. And here's my point. Here's where I'm at with it, Cohen. At this point, all right, it's on y'all. It's on y'all. It's on y'all. Y'all want John Cohen? These people behind the scenes, y'all want John Cohen? I'll just embrace the darkness. You better make the right hire. I guess sometimes to beat the darkness, you got to embrace it. Sometimes you got to go Sith. To find your way back to being a Jedi. I'll embrace the darkness, but you better hire the right guy. You better hire the right guy, because here's my deal with Auburn. At some point, you're going to hit rock bottom, and you're going to have to give full control to somebody. I don't know if that's now. Doesn't look like it's now. What it looks like now is the people who are pulling the strings are like, told you Brian Harsin wasn't the guy. Y'all were wrong. We're going to bring in John Cohen. We're going to bring in one of our guys. Right now, with John Cohen coming in, I don't know who that is. Hope to God it's not Dan Mullen. I can promise you that, because he's about as much fun as getting shot with a crossbow. Like, it's at this point, I'm just embracing the darkness.
So
that's it.
So for people who aren't familiar, walk people through what is John Cohen's background, and why wouldn't he hire Hugh Freeze, and who would he go after?
So John Cohen was the baseball coach at Mississippi State, and they had a ton of success. He became the AD. So he's obviously very, very familiar with what went down with Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss. John Cohen, I do not believe, will hire Hugh Freeze. I think there's a 99.9% chance that he would never do it. I don't know who he would hire, Cohen. He's been in the game a while. Like I said, went from coach to AD. I know some people at Mississippi State were trying to get rid of him. All right, this wasn't like this is some huge hot name. This is like one of those NFL recycling things. Here, we don't want him anymore. You have him. See if you can figure it out. It's just going to come down, like, the AD's most important job outside of fundraising is to hire the head coaches. So if you're John Cohen and you make the right decision at head coach, genius. But we're going to see it. I'm just to the point now. I'm laying my sword down. I'm embracing the darkness and hoping one of two things. One, it turns out that we were slithering all along, and it works. Or number two, it was their decision, the people that make the moves, and once it falls off a cliff, is that rock bottom? Is that the Mike Price, Mike Shula, Dennis Franchione situation? Nick Saban, please come save us. What do you want? Or is it to Georgia? We haven't won one as long as Moses roamed the desert for 40 years. Please, Kirby, what do you want? Here, have all of it. Jimbo at A&M, we haven't won one since before World War II. The U.S. got in World War II. Please have full control. Do it. Like, at some point, you hit rock bottom. Like, for a drunk, at some point, you hit rock bottom. For a gambling addict, at some point, you hit rock bottom. Just please, for the love of St. Christopher and all his buddies, can we just hit rock bottom already? That's what I think, Justin. Anyways, Florida, Georgia.
I have nothing to add.
Yeah. Man. Welcome to it. All right, Cone. Florida, Georgia. Georgia was able to jump out yesterday. I had Florida at plus 22.5, going off at plus 100. Oh, covered by the hook, man. I feel like Peter Pan over here. But no, when you watch this game, and it was so funny. You remember earlier in the game, they're like, hey, Anthony Richardson, first offensive snap. He's hurt. He's not going to be running it a lot. The whole first half, Gary Danielson, who's wrong 75% of the time, was like, Anthony Richardson, the quarterback run game, it's not there because Anthony Richardson's hurt. He's going to have to pass from the pocket. And then coming out of halftime, the Jenny Delchick was like, hey, guys, yeah, I talked to Billy Napier and Anthony Richardson about the injury, and they just wanted to ask you guys, what in the hell are y'all talking about? Like, nobody's hurt. Nobody's hurt at all. Like, I'm watching Anthony Richardson run around. I'm like, he doesn't look hurt. Well, like, it just looks like he's trying to be a pocket passer. Like, hey, NFL, look at me. I really am a pocket passer. I can throw it around a lot against Georgia. They didn't do what I said they needed to do. They didn't use the quarterback design run game nearly enough. It was funny. When they got in the red zone, they started using it and had a little success moving the ball. And then all of a sudden, Trevor Etienne, it's just wide open for him to run down there in the red zone. You're like, how in the hell can that happen? Well, they're worried about the quarterback. Florida tried to throw their way past Georgia. That was never, ever going to work. I'm sitting here looking at the numbers. You let Anthony Richardson throw the ball 37 times.
Too many.
37 times. This isn't Drew Brees. Look, you got a transformer, pull out the flaming sword and throw him in the battle. Like, I really think you still got him for 1 year, Billy. I continue to be shocked that Billy Napier is not playing to Anthony Richardson's strengths on offense. Dude, it is go back to young Dak Prescott. They need to treat him like Mississippi State Dan Mullen used a young Dak Prescott before he elevated his game as a passer. It was, I can throw good enough to scare you, but I'm going to be used primarily as a runner or a decoy to get the running back there, use our swing game, use our screen game, use our bubble game, all that stuff. They're trying to treat him like a pocket passer. That is not what he is. And you gave yourself a chance to come back against Georgia, who, in my opinion, Cone, Stetson Bennett played one of his worst games. Yeah. I think Stetson Bennett played one of his worst games. Brock Bowers is just an absolute freak. As I said on Twitter yesterday, he is a more athletic Travis Kelce. I know Travis Kelce's a dog. I got him on my fantasy team. Yeah, Travis Kelce didn't look like that at Cincinnati. He looked good. He wasn't doing that. Brock Bowers does everything. He does absolutely everything. Georgia handled business, but Florida, I am just perplexed by what you were trying to do on offense. That's like that's like if Navy came out and just started going empty. and just running a bunch of different combinations. That's not who you are, bud. It's like wearing spandex. It's a privilege, not a right. Like I don't get it, Cone.
Yeah, look, I wasn't surprised that the game ended up getting close in the middle. I was just surprised that it didn't start that way. I mean, Michigan State played out a lot more like a rivalry game is supposed to. It's close early, right? And then the better team sort of takes over late. I thought that that's what we'd see here from Georgia, Florida. This game would be close early, and then Georgia would pull away. Instead, Georgia's blowing them out early. Then it got close, and then Georgia blew them away again. If you're a Georgia fan right now, anytime you beat your rival by 22 points, you have to be excited. And for people who are saying Stetson Bennett put the ball in harm's way more than he needs to, and he threw 2 interceptions, after that second interception, he came back and he ripped a dig route 20 yards downfield into tight coverage. And I was like, wow, this kid, this is not just some, walk-on transfer kid who just won a championship behind a great defense last year. He is legitimately a fearless quarterback in the pocket who's not afraid to go gunslinger sometimes. And when that happens, you're going to have a couple interceptions. But I think late in the season, that's going to come into play. And you always have that weapon of Brock Bowers who can get you out of trouble. I know he's not stylistically like Cooper Kupp, but the Rams use Cooper Kupp in that same way. You saw 4th and 1 last year when the Rams really needed to get a first down. What do? They hand Cooper Kupp the ball in a jet sweep. You can do that with Brock Bowers. You can run stick routes. You can run rail routes down the field. You can get him the football in any way and let him make plays. That's going to continue to be a huge weapon for Georgia. I agree with you on Anthony Richardson. I just thought we'd see a lot more Q power. Jake, I'm starting to think that Anthony Richardson really does need to come back next year and get a little more seasoned. Are you disagreeing with that?
No, I agree with you. I just think the NFL is going to see his potential, and they're going to, watch how far he can throw it and how fast he can run and how high he can jump. And they're going to see what Jalen Hurts is doing for the Eagles right now, who's undefeated in the NFL. And they're going to say, hey, this guy has more potential than anybody we've seen. Let's take a flyer on him. I mean, if you're going to take some of the guys where they've taken them, I mean, let's be honest. Let's look back. Mitch Trubisky. I can go through lists of guys that were just absolutely not. And I think Anthony Richardson has more potential than any of those guys. But I think an NFL team will have a chance to take a flyer on him, and they will because he's that talented. But no, I'm with you. I wonder how much of it is Anthony Richardson and Billy Napier trying to prove, hey, no, he's a pocket passer. He really can throw. He should go number 1 overall. This is how talented he's. Josh Allen, but faster. It's absolutely ridiculous. In my opinion, he should come back just like Spencer Rattler should come back for another year. He's not ready. And I don't know if he'll be ready after next year, to be honest with you. But Stevie J says a $20 donation. Appreciate that, my friend. I feel like Coach Heupel took this Kentucky game personally against Coach Stoops. The history between them made this win even sweeter. You know what? I actually think the opposite. I don't think it was personal for Josh Heupel. I think Kentucky was the next one. I think they were the next victim. That's where I think this Tennessee team is different a little bit, Stevie J, that they're not taking games personal. They're not saying, oh, we got these guys up. They said this. We better play hard and play good this game. I think they're looking at the schedule. I think they're looking at the film. I think they're looking at everything and saying, how can we be fundamentally better? How can we fix what's wrong with us? Just because we're winning doesn't mean nothing's wrong. Just because it's going good doesn't mean there's a little bit of bad. I think that mindset has been what's taken Alabama to where they're at with Nick Saban, Georgia to where they're at with Kirby Smart, Ohio State with where they're at with Ryan Day. They're not worried about you. They're worried about them. That's what makes this Tennessee team dangerous. That's what makes them championship caliber, and that's what makes this season different than what we've seen in the past with Tennessee. It's not only do I expect to win, I know how to prepare to win, and it's more about me than it is about you. I think that's the difference in this year's team.
We have a question here from Troy Jacobs. Since week 1, who has played better, Bo Nix or Stetson Bennett? Man, Bo Nix with another huge day yesterday. Yeah. 412 through the air, Jake, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and this is one of those games you talk about trap games or look-ahead games. Cal's kind of a sneaky team. They're not a good team, but they've shown a little bit with Wilcox out there the ability to play teams close. They were playing Oregon close in this one. They were spreading the ball down the field, and Oregon was able to pull away thanks to Bo Nix's legs and his arm. But it's got to be Bo Nix right now. Another guy, we talk about Heisman, right? And it's not jokingly like we did last year. Oh, he's a dark horse, but, Auburn couldn't block somebody on Facebook right now, so he's having to run for his life, and that's what's leading to turnovers and mistakes and things like that. I think think Bo Nix has just found a home. I mean, he comes out and talks about this week. We played it on the show about how comfortable he is in this offense now that they can actually check plays, and he's not in that pop-up book Eric Carl offense that Gus Malzahn runs. They don't run bad plays into bad looks. They're running good plays into good looks, and that's the whole goal of an offense, is to put your guys in a situation where it's advantageous not only from a matchup personnel standpoint, but geometrically. Do we have angles? Do we have guys out leveraged? Is the RPO good into this because they're short on numbers? We like the one-on-one slide across coming to the boundary. So I think Bo Nix is actually in an offense where he feels comfortable, and he's operating behind an offensive line where he feels comfortable, probably for the first time in his college career. And that has got to be like the first time, you had a milkshake or a Frosty or something. It's just super duper sweet.
I laughed at the idea of Bo Nix being a Heisman finalist at the beginning of the year. I'm not laughing so much anymore right now. 72% completion percentage,
Man.
Jake. That's tough to do against air. 2,200 yards is more than he threw for last year, and we still have games to be played. 20 touchdowns is more than he's ever thrown for in his career, and he has 5 interceptions right now.
Yeah, he's absolutely balling. Justin Decker, $2 donation, says a 3-win season better be rock bottom, dear Lord. Look, who knows? Who knows? And that's the way it's looking. Real quick, Auburn, Arkansas, just to talk about it. We talked about whoever's going to win this game is the team that's going to be able to stop the run and limit the big play. Auburn was not able to do that. Again, look, bad teams find a way to lose. Good teams find a way to win. Is Arkansas a good team? No, because of injuries overall in the grand scheme of it compared to where they thought they were going to be, but they're better than Auburn. It's a losing mentality at this point. Brian Harsin, he's Gonzo the Clown. You look at the sideline yesterday at Auburn. You had the players on one side, coaches on the other. Half the players aren't even interested in the game. Just goes to show you, Brian Harsin talked this big game about how he's this motivator and accountability. No, you're just a guy. You're just a guy. You're the right now. It looks like you're the son that had the most promise. Like in the rich family, like the Vanderbilts, but all of a sudden he falls in love one time or something, then just totally loses all his ambition, or he's just a good talker. I think Brian Harsin is just a good talker when it comes to motivating. He's a strong looking guy, worked with race cars or drag cars or whatever. And comes off as a real, we're going to do this in disciplinary. I think it's all talk. I think this guy was all smoke. I think he fooled Allen Green. Which isn't hard to do, but it just at this point it's a disaster. It's a good win for Arkansas, but you got to get this guy's ass out of Auburn. I'll buy the Uber. Just get him out of Auburn. Get an AD in here. Get somebody in here who's genuine, right? Get somebody in Auburn who's genuine. Don't get somebody in there that's fake. Brian Harsin's a fake guy. He's a fake tough guy, fake motivator. Like fake, I'm going to do this, and we're not afraid of this, and we're 1-0. Dog, you haven't been 1-0 since like week 3. You can't go 1-0. You're not good enough. Then you bring in your guys from Boise who don't know anything about the way football is played down here. You didn't have anybody on that staff that could tell you no. That's what the problem was. Nobody could tell you, hey, man, this is the SEC or this is Auburn. This is a bad idea. Hey, not embracing NIL, that's a bad idea. But you know what? I don't want to waste time talking about Auburn. They're not relevant this year. Hopefully they will be soon. But
I want to go back to Oregon for 1 second, okay? Because like we talked about, they go on the road next weekend to Colorado, should handle business. And then that 3-game stretch at the end of the year for Oregon is what we've been highlighting here. Washington and Utah back-to-back, but you get them at home. And then you go to Oregon State, which, look, that's always going to be a dogfight. It's always going to be a big rivalry game. That's 3 tough games there. If Oregon finds a way to win out, you still have the 49-3 loss at the beginning of the year, but you've won every game since then. You've gotten better every week. You could go into the Pac-12 championship, maybe against a Southern Cal, something like that, maybe make another statement. It's tough because either Tennessee or Georgia is going to be a 1-loss team, I believe, at the end of the regular season. I really believe that Michigan and the Buckeyes could possibly, one of them's going to go undefeated and the other one could be a 1-loss team, depending on what happens with Illinois there late in the season. Clemson's looking like they can win out, even though they do have a tough game at Notre Dame. And then TCU's looking like they could possibly win out. What do you think the ceiling is right now for an Oregon team who's gotten better since their first loss?
Well, I think they could be effective in the college football playoff. I don't think they're good enough to win a national championship. I don't think that defense is good enough. I think the real question is, right now, who has a better chance to win out or in the regular season? Oregon or TCU. I think those are the two teams you're looking at, because you're looking at Clemson. You almost feel like you got to pencil them in right now in the ACC going undefeated. Now, the reason that Ohio State win was so big yesterday is now the way it looks, or the way it is setting up, the Big Ten is definitely getting at least one team in. There's a collision course for Michigan or Ohio State, obviously, to get into the playoff now that Penn State is really out of it when you look at that schedule. So you've got Clemson hanging out over there. You can go ahead and pencil in. You can go ahead and pencil in one SEC team, in my opinion. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. So that's two there. When you look at the periphery, and you say, all right, TCU's undefeated out there. Well, this Tennessee-Georgia game is massive. Regardless of if you lose the Tennessee-Georgia game, you're definitely still in the playoff. And, I know people in the chat, I can see you saying, well, I think Alabama has a better chance than the loser of Georgia, of Tennessee. I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that. Bama's got to go to Ole Miss. You got to go to LSU. And then if you win those conference championship game, yeah. All right. If you lose one of those, you're out of the playoff regardless, in my opinion. Now, I guess you could say, well, if Bama has 2 losses and still wins the SEC West and then beats Georgia, would they put a 2-loss SEC champion into the playoff and keep maybe a 1-loss Georgia out if Georgia loses to Alabama? We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think there's a better chance right now that you have 2 teams from the SEC East in the college football playoff. Because I'm looking out in the Pac-12. Oregon's your only hope, right? They're really your only hope, because USC and Oregon don't play in the regular season, I don't believe. Now, they may play in the Pac-12 championship game if it gets down to that. But I really think right now, Cone, this next weekend is going to unclog a lot, because if you look at Tennessee right now, I'm going to go and tell you, if Tennessee goes and beats Georgia, okay, and then let's say they make the SEC championship game, which that would pretty much do that, then they lose the SEC championship game, I still think Tennessee gets in.
Interesting. Well, if you're an Alabama fan right now, you should be excited about the tough road ahead, because it gives you a chance to set the record straight from a lot of shaky games this year. If you go on the road in Baton Rouge, night game at Death Valley, and you beat LSU, that's a huge victory. If you do the same at Oxford, that's a big win. You go to the SEC championship and either avenge a loss to the national championship from the game last year against Georgia, that's a big win. Or if you beat a Tennessee team who you lost to on the road in Knoxville, that's a big win, and you'd be sitting there as a SEC champ with 1 loss. So I agree with you. A 2-loss Alabama team who ends up winning the SEC. Let's cross that bridge when we get there, and we're going to find out more next week when Tennessee goes on the road to Georgia.
Yeah, and we're going to have that covered all week. Make sure you subscribe to Crane & Company. Let's go ahead, Coney, and let's talk about Louisville and Wake Forest. Wake Forest turns the ball over 8 times. You're not going to win.
4 fumbles, man.
Pretty simple. It's pretty simple. You're never going to win turning it over like that. Look, Scott, boy, you talking about needed it. Scott Satterfield, that gets them back to 5-3. They were getting ready to fire him. They were getting ready to fire him after the 1-3 start. You got Malik Cunningham, who we know is really talented. A lot was expected out of this Louisville team this year in the ACC. Some even thought they had the possibility to win the ACC. Huge win against Wake Forest. Totally knocks Wake out. Now probably of they're in the top 10. They were sitting at 6-2. You would think that would drop them down pretty far there in the top 25. Dave Clawson's still doing a hell of a job. Still love what Sam Hartman and them have done. But Louisville jumped them from the start. They kept it going, and then the turnovers obviously helped them pull away late in the game. Nice win for Louisville, and ugly loss there for Wake, Coney.
8 turnovers, 2 for touchdowns. Louisville had 35 points in the third quarter, man.
Yeah,
35 points in the third quarter. I mean, and that's what I was expecting from this Louisville team throughout the year. Didn't get off to a hot start, but like you said, man, Scott Satterfield really needed that one. And look, I feel more comfortable in our decision to keep Wake Forest out of the top 12 that we made last year. Now, I think that AP had them at 10, so this is a top 10 win for Louisville. I think you and I put them at 14, something like that, maybe even 13. But this is a bad loss for a Wake Forest team that's had a good year, and it's tough for Sam Hartman, because I think he had obviously 3 of those interceptions and maybe 3 of the fumbles too, something like that.
It was a tough day for Sam. Travis Elrod asked, should an undefeated TCU get in over a second SEC team? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have to.
If that's what it comes down to. Yes, without a doubt, undefeated should get you in.
And if it makes you feel any better about it, the Big 12 is very competitive this year.
Unbelievably competitive. Pretty much from top to bottom, maybe more than any other conference from top to bottom competitive within itself. All right, man. How about this, Cone? If I were to told you, all right, if I were to sit there and say, David, let's 30 for 30 this thing. Okay. What if I told you that Connor Wegman went 28-44 for 340 yards, 4 touchdowns?
And 4 touchdowns.
Devin A. Chain runs for $140. There's no way you would think A&M would have lost this game.
No.
Especially with it being at home. Ole Miss. What the craziest part about that game to me, Connor Wegman was not the biggest surprise in last night's game. for Texas A&M. And I know people say, whoa, what? True freshman comes in, throws for almost 400. That's not the biggest surprise to me. That was A&M was able to hold up front, missing 3 offensive line starters, including the center. That to me was the biggest story. They were able to protect. They were able to run the ball as effectively as they were. But on the flip side of that, A&M's front 7 on defense got absolutely pounded from the jump. From the jump. I mean, you saw it. Judkins goes for 205.
205.
Dart goes for 95. Evans goes for 75. But Judkins was running through holes. Zone game. That you saw some gap scheme. You saw some counter with the double pulls that was hitting. A lot of it was zone runs that were absolutely clobbering that A&M front 7. And it seemed like DJ Durkin and them just never adjusted. Remember the same DJ Durkin that left Ole Miss to come to A&M? Boy, that probably had to feel good for Lane Kiffin, who, by the way, him calling Bryce Anderson the B word, I'm not like, look, I understand people trash talking and stuff, but a head coach cussing at one of the players from the other team, like, you know, an assistant coach does it. Lane's got to kind of calm down with that a little bit. You do have to show that you're the more mature one.
Lane Kiffin did that?
Yeah, Lane Kiffin. There's video of it. You can tell him and Bryce Anderson, the A&M player, were saying something back and forth, and then Lane said something and called him like a little, you know,
I missed that one.
word, which, look, I'm all for trash talk, but the head coach, that's a little bit of a different area. But you have to take your hat off to Ole Miss. Jackson Dart ends up going, 13-20 for only 140 yards through the air, but he did have 3 touchdowns, 85 QBR. Ole Miss did a really good job of playing their game and won it. I had Ole Miss -3 at +100. This was a push. I thought it was a good bet, but you want to know how Ole Miss kind of went against what a lot of people thought. When they got down in this game, think about it. Think about this. A&M's been struggling all year, right? It's still rabid there. Absolutely loyal fan base. It's loud as it's ever been. All of a sudden, Connor Wegman comes out. It's looking good. He's hitting tight ends in stride across the middle, throwing the check down. The run game's working because the pass game is somewhat there, and there's a lot of momentum. A&M's up 14-7, and then all of a sudden, Ole Miss could have panicked. Ole Miss could have said, oh, my God, guys, after what happened against LSU last week, we really aren't as good as what people said. We're probably not as good as this A&M team. We just need to try and see what we can do. That's not what Ole Miss did. They put their foot on the throat. They came back, and in clutch situations, whether it be 3rd and medium, whether it be 3rd and long, whether it was Jackson Dart having to do it through the air or escaping up through the pocket or outside the pocket, they were able to get it done. I think this is a great team win for Ole Miss in a tough environment. And, guys, every win that Ole Miss has, every time they win, you're getting closer and closer to that Bama game, clinching the SEC West. All right, so let's look at this, David. Ole Miss has the 1 loss to LSU. Okay, you've got a bye next week. Ole Miss will have a bye. Alabama is going to LSU coming off a bye. So if Alabama wins that game, okay, and LSU now has 2 losses in conference, and you beat Alabama, you got Arkansas on the road, which is winnable, and Mississippi State at home, which really means if LSU has 2 losses and Alabama has 2 losses and Ole Miss has 2 losses and Ole Miss has beaten LSU or has beaten Alabama, LSU has lost to Alabama, you're going to get that 3-way tie, and then it's going to come down to how you play against Arkansas and Mississippi State. So it's going to be really interesting down the stretch with this Ole Miss team. That was a huge win going into a week where you get a bye to give Lane Kiffin another week to prepare for Alabama, David.
Let me counter your 30 for 30 real quick. If you told me Connor Wegman throws for 338, 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, and Texas A&M rushes for 142, and then I told you that Ole Miss rushes for 390 and Jackson Dart only throws for 140, who would you say won the football game?
I would say A&M.
Yeah.
Because they're at home.
A&M. I mean, yeah, but I would say I would probably say the same thing, but Ole Miss 390 on the ground, just incredible. Keep in mind, this is just 2 weeks removed from having 3 rushers of over 100 yards. One thing that stood out to me was Devon Achane had 120 on the ground in the first half. He ended with 138. So, only 18 yards in the second half. I would keep trying to find ways to get the kid the football. I think he's the best player on your team. But again, like you said, Ole Miss, incredible performance, and you're starting to really feel like Lane Kiffin is more than just an offensive schematical genius, right? He's actually a head coach who can lead a team deep into the season.
No, and look, Lane, he's been around for so long now. He understands the ebbs and the flows and the ups and downs. We keep getting asked about obviously what happened between Michigan State and
Mm-hmm.
Michigan in the tunnel. Cone, I'm going to let you kind of opine on that. What did it look like to you? I know there's more information coming out, but it was a bad look either way.
Yeah, bad look either way. It looked like to me that the Michigan player was Andrell Anthony. I can't confirm that. I have a couple messages out to try and figure out what exactly happened there. Obviously, you had a group of Michigan State players in the tunnel. Physically beating down on one Michigan player, and you had the staff members trying to separate that. I don't know what was said. Maybe the player, if it was Andrew Anthony, went over and said something. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like he was hurt. We'll see if there are any consequences to this action. One thing that stood out was a lot of people on social media were saying, well, this is why the big house needs to have a second tunnel. I'm telling you, this is the greatest part about Michigan Stadium is there's one way in and there's one way out, and usually it doesn't lead to any physical violence. It just leads to a very electric atmosphere in the tunnel, and they try and do the best they can of one team going up and then the second team going up. This is one case where unfortunately a Michigan player found himself in the wrong part of the tunnel all by himself. Hey, Jake, you don't want to go lone wolf over there. That's one thing I'll say. You don't want to go lone wolf in the tunnel.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden you look up and it's like Leonidas looking at the arrows, and you're like, oh my God, like, where's Mike Morris? Please, Mike Morris, Blake Corum, somebody save me.
Regardless of what was said, not a good look from Michigan State there. So leave Paul Bunyan and y'all head back to East Lansing.
And you get the Paul Bunyan ornament sent to you with our good buddy Ben Everson.
Yes, you gotta send him an address.
You get that on the tree this week. I tell you what's not on a tree this week for South Carolina, and that's a W. We talk about schizophrenic teams, right? South Carolina has been gifted more than any other team in college football this year. They've been gifted more. It seems like for the last 3 or 4 weeks, every team they played, like the starting quarterback got syphilis or got in a bicycle accident or cut his finger open in a letter that he has to appear for jury duty so he can't play this weekend. They've been handed every gift you could possibly get handed, and they don't come through with it against Missouri at home, who, by the way, Brady Cook has turned it over multiple times on the road. I thought he did a good job of not doing that. I was shocked. I took South Carolina -2.5 here. This is one of the ones I felt the best about. I feel like, and I said this all week, I feel like this South Carolina team thinks there's something a little bit they're not with the way they have acted around. And that's when you got to rely on your older guys to rein in those other guys and the new ones and say, guys, we're not there yet. We can't just roll our helmet out against Missouri and beat them. Missouri outplayed South Carolina. Missouri deserved to win that game against South Carolina from the start to the finish. It felt like Missouri wanted it more, that Missouri was the team that was more excited to play. It was almost like South Carolina was like, well, it's not a huge name team coming in here that at home, so we shouldn't really have a problem with them. So we're just going to go out here and just try and play well and have some fun, and it'll be great for recruiting and Beamer ball and all this other stuff. No, your personnel is not good enough to be able to come out and play like that. Now, your roster overall is probably better than Missouri's, but it's not so much better than them, and it rarely is, that you can go out there and just throw vanilla ice cream at the wall and think it's going to just go perfectly. Missouri took that game. They won that game. And if you're South Carolina, that was one you're looking. Now you're left looking at the schedule like, all right, so we are 5-2 coming in.
Yeah.
Now we're 5-3. You get Vandy at home, which you can't overlook them, but that should be a winnable one. But out and to get you to bowl eligibility. But man, that really starts to smell like 6-6 with who you got coming down the pipe. And all of a sudden now my 5-7 prediction doesn't look as bad as what it did. And that was really the only one I was kind of missing on when you look at the SEC. But Cone, just real quick, your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, like we said, they were 5-2. I thought they had a great opportunity with Missouri and Vanderbilt back-to-back to go to 7-2 before they hit that 3-game slide at the end. But like you said, they're going to finish at Florida, Tennessee at home, and then at Clemson, which now, if you do get that win over Vanderbilt, is looking like 6-6. Just surprising that you would be able to beat Kentucky on the road, even without a Will Levis at quarterback, beat Kentucky on the road, and then handle A&M at home, and then lose to Missouri. But this is why we play the games, Jake. Any week, man, any given Saturday.
No, without a doubt. In South Carolina offensively, it was just bad. I mean, just look at the numbers. Spencer Rattler continues to not have a good year. And I got absolutely roasted for saying, and our good friend Jordan Rogers is going to come on the show hopefully this next week, and we're going to talk about Spencer Rattler because me and him were way different when it came to what we thought. And Jordan does obviously know what he's talking about. Sometimes it goes like that. But Spencer Rattler is who we thought he was. He is who we thought he was, and he needs another year. He doesn't need to go to the NFL. Hell, if they go get a guy at the portal, I don't know if he'll be the starter at Oklahoma or at South Carolina next year. So it's pretty interesting, in my opinion, to watch the way that South Carolina finishes down the stretch because it could go either way. And Marcus Satterfield does. John, I'm with you. This is one of the games where I'm with you. Marcus Satterfield deserves a lot of the blame because the offense was anemic. It was anemic. Marshawn Lloyd only has 30 yards rushing. You don't have a touchdown pass from Spencer Rattler, yet you have another interception. Go look at Spencer Rattler's number right after you like and subscribe this video. Coney, a couple more. UCF hangs on to beat Cincinnati at home. A nice win for Gus Malzahn. John Reese Plumlee out there, the Ole Miss transfer, a good win for them. Looking around the rest of the periphery, USC survives on the road at Arizona. Sneaky game. Jake DeLora transferred over there. I love what Jed Fish is doing at Arizona, especially with USC and UCLA leaving the conference. Arizona, I think, could really kind of take a leg up and get back or get to some level of stability at the football program. It's a place that you can win. North Carolina dispatches Pitt 42-24. I know they lost Kenny Pickett. I know Jordan Addison went to USC, but after winning the ACC last year, Pitt has just fallen off a cliff. Slovis gets hurt. We know about that through the middle of the season, and they've obviously nosedived. UCLA handles Oregon, UCLA handles Stanford 38-13. Illinois, Coney. There's no S in Illinois. It is Illinois. Blaine always gets me with that. By the way, Blaine is under the weather today, not like the rest of us that are technically under the weather outside of pilots. He is sick, so we're hoping he feels better. I know he's probably listening, yelling and screaming and disagreeing emotionally inside of himself. Just some other things really quickly. I looked around the rest of the country from the top 25. That's pretty much it, Coney. Outside of the top 25 and then Illinois winning, anything else really kind of tickle your fancy this weekend in college
Oklahoma,
football?
Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel looked good both on the ground and through the air. I know it was against Iowa State, but it was good to see Dylan Gabriel healthy again. You talked about UCF, huge win there. John Rice Plumlee did go out with an injury, so I'll be tracking that. But that's
when did he go out in that game, Cone? I didn't see when. Do we know when he went out in that game? Was it towards the end, or did they have to basically go through the whole game?
I thought it was earlier. We'll
double check on that. That was one I was not able to watch live because we had so much going on yesterday.
And then just one more thing on TCU here. Sonny Dykes is the first Big 12 coach to start 8-0 in his first year.
Yeah, incredible. It's unbelievably impressive. And I do want to give a shout out to Dave Aranda and Baylor going on the road and absolutely slapping Texas Tech around. I said during the week I wanted to pick Baylor money line in this game, and I talked myself out of it. They were going to be one of my dog bets. But it's funny, I talked myself out of that one and took San Diego State +8 as a dog bet. San Diego State was able to cover for the kid as well. Even should have won the game. I mean, Fresno State won that game, a big rivalry game. Fresno State, San Diego State. Without Jake Haener, Fresno State was able to win that game. So
also, Jake, Miami and Virginia. That game went into overtime at 6-all. Look, I still think Mario Cristobal is the right hire there. He's going to get things right in Miami, but man, it's not working right now.
Yeah, it's just a bad situation, but he needs time. I mean, you look at what's around Van Dyke, and Van Dyke hasn't played great. Mario, I think you're going to see Miami make a big jump, maybe even next year when you get a full offseason with the way they're recruiting up front. Let's see. C-Child 96 says Plumlee went out in the second quarter. Thank you for that. That's what I thought. Yeah. That's a hell of a job by UCF to be able to hold on. Now, look, is John Rice Plumlee the best thrower of all time? No, but he is a really good fit for what Gus Malzahn wants to do. Let's see. Looking in the chat here, if you got some more college football questions, remember donations get answered. The chat is absolutely popping. Make sure you're subbed. If you got some more college football questions, throw them in there right now before we transition to the NFL, Cone.
Oh, I will say one more thing that some people were reaching out asking me about was Michigan trying to score a touchdown late in the game against Michigan State, running like a reverse pass, basically. Look, here's the thing.
I love it.
Here's the thing. Exactly. Look, you're trying to score and run up the score essentially on one of your biggest rivals. I love it. Score as many points as humanly possible. It's the play calls. Like if you're going to do it, hit it and score.
It's like Cam Newton said, you don't want me to dance, don't let me score. Now, look, every win's great. If that was against UCLA, or if that was against Indiana, do you do that? No. But who's really just snuck behind you and dug the knife in your ribs when Michigan fans were, they're like, hey, look at Ohio State, Oh, Michigan State stabs you in the side. Deep down, let's not act like that was a little personal.
Yeah, look.
Right? That was a little personal. You guys have snuck up on, you hide behind the door or hide in my garage and wait till I get home and then kneecap me with a baseball bat. Y'all have Tanya Harding them like 6 times, including last year with Kenneth Walker. I think deep down Harbaugh looked, they're probably in the headset and they're like, hey, Jim, do you want to run Screw You 27? And he's like, hey, Eric,
look,
who are we playing?
I love it.
He's like, Michigan State. He's like, run it.
I love it
twice.
I love it. But if you're
times.
gonna flex, man, don't put 415 on the bench bar and then have the spotter have to help you get it up.
That's what I'm saying. Look, if you're gonna beat up one of our guys in the tunnel, we're running the reverse pass. Like if that's going down like that, it's going down like that. JC asks your thoughts about Tennessee versus Georgia this upcoming week. Oh, Cone. Oh, this is such a huge game. It's such a great matchup.
Yeah,
like the way these teams are put together, this is just such a great matchup because Georgia a little bit more wide open than they were last year, a lot closer to the vest. Tennessee, this is going to come down to each team's weaknesses. Now, when you look at Tennessee and Georgia, do you say, all right, Tennessee, we know their weakness. If you're going to pick a weakness for Tennessee, it's on defense, right? McCullough's coming back. By the way, if you hear like some crazy noise, that's my dog Mowgli. He's literally right here by me. Huge college football fan. And I haven't petted him for the last hour, so he freaks out. But when I look at this game, Cone, and I look at Tennessee's weakness on defense, right? What would you say Georgia's weakness is? If you had to pick Georgia's weakness out, Cone, what would it be? Like in the chat, tell us. If you had to pick Georgia's weakness, what would it be? I don't think you can say Stetson Bennett. Maybe wide receiver play. Maybe, maybe having wide receivers that can hit home runs. We know Brock Bowers can, but he's really a flex Y tight end guy. Outside of him, huge explosive Georgia plays, right? Would you say maybe that's a little bit of a weakness?
It's weird to see Georgia who doesn't have a big bruising running back, in the run game like that. That's a little bit surprising because we've seen that from every great Georgia team. And then, like you're saying, on the outside, they're not as explosive on the outside at wide receiver. But I think Kirby Smart's done such a great job at masking those weaknesses to just make them lesser strengths than other position groups.
Yeah, and again, I look at team balance, right? You've already got to give Georgia, it's already at least +3, maybe even +6 or 7, Georgia being at home. All right, for this game. We know that. But Tennessee, it's always these teams that do something a little bit different that can go win these huge games on the road against teams you think are better. And then we see it in college basketball all the time. You're like, how in the hell did Kentucky lose at home to, someone like UCF or somebody like, just for an example, the way that Fred Hoiberg in Nebraska plays, not that they lose the game, which they tend to do all the time out there, but the way they play, it takes somebody that plays a little bit different, maybe really, really fast or really, really slow or a triple option team. The way this Tennessee team plays offensively, I feel like it will give them a chance. One of the few, if maybe the only team that can go into Athens and beat the Georgia Bulldogs without having to have some sort of miracle. I think that Tennessee, if I'm going to look to preview this game, Tennessee has got to continue to do what they're doing offensively. But this game is going to come down to Georgia's receivers room versus Tennessee's DB room. That's what it's going to come down to. Because if Georgia can hit explosive plays, they will beat Tennessee. If Georgia has to go 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 plays on drives, Tennessee will have a chance to win this because I don't think Tennessee's offense is slowing down. You have Cedric Tillman back. We know the way Hendon Hooker's operated this offense. The run game is going to be key, but when you spit out the screen as much as they do and use modified runs the way they do, inside zone isn't as important as it is for some other teams. So it is a hell of a matchup. It is prime time. It is something that we did not expect it to be this close from a talent standpoint. Georgia's defense isn't Georgia's defense from last year, but Tennessee's offense is not Tennessee's offense from last year either. So you have a juggernaut Tennessee offense against a defense for Georgia that is good, that is really good, not what they were last year. But then on the flip side, this Georgia offense is not the shelled turtle that it was last year. They can go win a 55-52 game. It is fascinating, and there's so many storylines.
Yep.
But I'm seeing in the chat here, A.D. Mitchell is the guy that we know what he did last year, the national championship game. That receiver room is huge for Georgia. We're going to be breaking it down all week. Stevie J, $20 donation. Coach Heupel said last night, or said that next week will be the healthiest the team has been all year. This game will be awesome. Yes, it will be. And I, for one, cannot wait. All right, Coney, you want to go ahead and laugh at Russell Wilson already for how bad the Broncos are playing?
Let's do it. What's the score of that one right now?
It's already 7-0. I believe he's already thrown an interception. I guess all those high knees didn't hurt and didn't help. The Jaguars got first and goal at the Denver 3 going in. The Broncos look like they're about to get bucked. But let's go through this slate a little bit today, Cone. For the NFC South, all right, we're also doing fantasy questions as well. So if you have any fantasy questions, throw those in there. Remember, donations get asked quicker than anything. I did see Reed and Darby Lou in the chat earlier. What's up, ladies? Love when y'all get in here and collab. But the Panthers and the Falcons, to see who's going to have the lead in the NFC South. David.
Who would have thought that, Jake?
David, I've seen a lot of stuff. Seen a lot of things. Did not think that the P.J. Walker-led Panthers versus the should-have-been tanking Falcons would be playing in Week 8?
Yeah.
Week 8. This isn't week 3. This isn't some sort of like, oh, what a cool story. Let's let the blind kid go first. It's not one of those. They are legitimately in week 8 playing to see who's going to have the lead in the NFC South. And I like the Falcons in this game. I really do like the Falcons in this game. I think people will see what the Panthers were able to do last week against the Buccaneers, and they're like, oh my goodness, P.J. Walker in this offense, they can score. DJ Moore, they can really score. This team can be explosive offensively. Who'd have thought P.J. Walker is better than Baker Mayfield? No, I think Atlanta has a chance to put up some big points in this game. Marcus Mariota, what he's done in the run game has totally transformed that offense. And the Falcons, like the Seahawks, like the Giants, like the Jets, there's been a lot of great stories in here. I do think the Falcons find a way. I don't think this game will be close. You'll see in my bets, which I've already put out there, I like the Falcons in this game, and I like the Falcons big.
Yeah, I thought the Falcons were going to be aiming at a top 3 overall pick this season. If you say tanking, I say restructuring sort of. But here we go as they fight for the lead in the NFC East. I like the Falcons in this game. Also, Marcus Mariota continues to impress. But if the Panthers win this, I think they're going to be able to do it off the strength of that defense. You saw what they were able to do to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. This Carolina Panthers defense is legitimate. So you need to get to Marcus Mariota. You need to get pressure on him, confuse him. It's a road game for the Panthers, but I'm going to take Atlanta in this one, Jake.
Yeah, you're going to see my bets. I think it's at 4.5 right now is the spread. Actually, the Falcons are at -4. I hate that number. I would either take it at 2.5 or say, you know what, screw it, give it to me at 6 or 6.5. Let's throw some more pluses on that bad boy and see if we can't double up. Moving on, Bears at Cowboys. Dak Prescott obviously back. The Bears coming off a game and with the defense got 3 interceptions. Justin Fields had a pretty nice game. He wasn't the reason that they won. But before we get to that one, we do have a donation here, Cone.
Emmanuel C.
Yeah, Emmanuel C says, I have either the Bills defense at home versus the Packers or the Jets defense at home versus the Patriots. Which defense would you start today? Man, I think you're going to get positivity from both of these. The Packers, we know, have struggled. They don't have a lot of weapons on the outside. When I look at the Patriots, last week it kind of fell off a cliff when Zappe came in. Everybody was like, oh my goodness, Mac Jones will never play for the Patriots again. And then all of a sudden we see the interceptions by the Bears defense. I don't think you're wrong either way, but part of me wants to say Jets here, Cone.
I think Jets, Jake. I think you go Jets.
Because their team is built around defense. The Bills, we know, is an offensive juggernaut. They can get away when not playing great defense. I think the Jets are defined by their defense. That's how they judge themselves. And we've seen what Sauce Gardner and those guys have been able to do. They don't just turn you over. They turn you over and then score.
And that's a divisional matchup too. Jets Dolphins is going to be a divisional matchup where I think you're going to have or Jets Patriots, divisional matchup where you're going to have a closer game where defense matters most of the time. You could have a situation in the Bills Packers game where the Bills score a lot of points early, are blowing them out, and Aaron Rodgers is able to throw a couple late TDs that really, mess you up in fantasy. So my gut would tell me Jets defense in that scenario.
Yeah, I think we're both in on the Jets there. All right, moving on. Bears, Cowboys, like I said, the Cowboys are a 10-point favorite at home. Dak Prescott making another start after starting off 1-0. Wasn't beautiful offensively against the Lions as he kind of gets his feet back under him. Ezekiel Elliott, doubtful. I think he's still doubtful for today. I'm starting Tony Pollard in front of Aaron Jones. I think he's going to get a lot of touches, not just in the run game, but in the pass game as well, and we know how big that is in a PPR league. The question is, this Cowboys is a defensive team. Yep. The Cowboys are a defensive team. You want to know the teams that are winning outside of the normal freaks we see on offense for the Chiefs, right, and the Bills? Teams with really good defenses. Think about all these underdog teams. The Jets, defensive team. The Giants, you want to call a spade a spade? They're a defensive team. Okay, they're not an offensive juggernaut. The Seahawks, in a lot of ways, even though I will say the Seahawks have probably scored, more points than anybody ever thought they would with Geno Smith and the boys there. But this Cowboys defense is elite. Yes. I'm playing them again this week. Can Justin Fields get to that second progression, or can Justin Fields run it enough to be effective for the Bears offense? I don't think so. I like Darnell Mooney. I think he's a good piece. I like David Montgomery and Herbert. I think they're good pieces. We know Equanimeous St. Brown's a good piece as well, along with his brother. But this offense is not explosive. They have to be able to score 30 points. And to be able to outscore teams, they have to have an effort like they had last week where the defense got 3 interceptions. I don't see that happening today. It's a matter of time before Dak has one of those good offensive games with CeeDee Lamb. I know even without Ezekiel Elliott, but you look at Dalton Schultz, you look at some of the weapons that they have. I like the Cowboys in this one. -10, that's a high number.
That's a lot,
Tony.
though.
That's a high number. I think the over-under is at 42 here. I'm
42 and a half.
42 and a half. I like the under in this game. Give me the Cowboys 27-10-ish, somewhere around here. I don't think the Bears score over 14 points.
Okay. Well, I thought the same thing last week at the Patriots, and they ended up, how many do they have? Like 33 points, 34 points, something like that. I do agree with you that this Cowboys defense is elite. 10 points seems like a lot, though. I like the under. I'll probably take the under as well.
For sure.
Got Cardinals at Vikings. That line's -4 Vikings right now with an over-under at 48.5. Obviously, the Cardinals have DeAndre Hopkins back. What are you leaning on this one?
Man, I like the over in this game. I do like the Vikings at home. Justin Jefferson tends to go off in these games, but you look at the other side, DeAndre Hopkins for the Cardinals coming back, giving Kyler Murray that extra weapon. James Conner's still out. I believe Benjamin's still going to be the guy, which I think Eno's going to get a lot of carries moving forward. You may see James Conner as more of a red zone play as well. But when I look at this game overall, it's can the Cardinals defense and the pass rush in particular get to Kirk Cousins before he gets going with Jefferson and Thielen, and if Dalvin Cook is cooking in the run game, pun intended, this Minnesota offense can be very deadly. Have they been playing at a very high rate, at a very high clip for the athletes that they have? No, Justin Jefferson's either really gone off or kind of not disappeared, but hasn't been the difference or super effective. I feel like he finds a way to have a pretty good day today, but I think a guy like Adam Thielen may go off, or you may see a Dalvin Cook rush for 2, maybe even 3 touchdowns, something like that. I like the Vikings to win this game in a high-scoring game because I think the Cardinals will be able to score points against this Viking defense, even though I love Harrison Smith, one of my favorite safeties in the game. With DeAndre Hopkins back now, that gives you some other avenues. Rondale Moore, we can go down the list full of guys that can make plays for this team.
Yeah, it feels like one of those ones that could turn into a shootout quickly. I think the Vikings have a better football team, but something that just feels weird, man. You could have a Kyler Murray at the end of the game situation, scrambling around, finding DeAndre Hopkins in the back of the end zone for a touchdown and winning the game.
No, I'm with you. It's just, man, when I look at it, and I got the over 50, I'll go ahead and tell you is one of my bets. I'm just wondering how you can consistently stop the Vikings if you're the Cardinals defense, the way the Cardinals are put together defensively. I just don't think the Cardinals are from linebacker back are good enough overall to completely shut down the Vikings, or if the Cardinals offense isn't playing good, if they're going to score 24 less points, how they're going to be able to keep the Vikings from having a big day in the yard. But let's move on. Dolphins, Lions. Dolphins, 3.5-point favorite. On the road, it looks like DeAndre Swift is going to play. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to play. We know Tua was able to play last week, and with Tyreek and with Jalen Waddle and Gesicki and the weapons that the Dolphins have, we know they're dangerous. Do the Lions have a shot to kind of turn this thing around at home, Cone, with Jared Goff, who looks like he's smuggling gumballs in his cheeks?
Well, they started out so well at the beginning of the season, putting up a lot of points, and I know they've had some injuries on offense, but we've seen a couple of weeks where Amon-Ra St. Brown has been back. We've seen, Josh Reynolds, I think, is a top-notch wide receiver. They just haven't been able to piece everything together. The line here, I think it's right, Jake. I mean, mine plus 3.5 for the Lions at home. Maybe they can find a way to put up some points on this Dolphins defense, but I don't see the Lions really turning this thing around in the middle of the season.
Yeah, me either. It's going to be tough. Getting those pieces back is going to help, and I think they're still going to play hard for Dan Campbell and that staff. That they seem to all in, and it just goes to show you, man. If Hard Knocks wanted to come see my team during the fall, I would never say yes. Like nobody ever does good after Hard Knocks. It's like the Madden cover. Like nobody does good. Since it legitimately goes, Hard Knocks goes there and takes off a little bit of your time. But all right, Cone, let's go rapid fire as we wrap up here. As we get down toward the end, let's go Raiders Saints. Who do you like in this game?
Look, I like the Raiders, and I'm surprised that the Raiders haven't started off better. They're 2-4. I really thought with the addition of with the way that Josh Jacobs has the ability to run the football and the addition of Devontae Adams, like Derek Carr, we know, look, he doesn't have the highest ceiling in the world. I'm surprised that Vegas is sitting here at 2-4, but I like them in this football game. I think at some point we need to start talking about the New Orleans Saints just sort of selling off all their assets and trying to get that top pick back. We've heard that Alvin Kamara may be traded to Philly to try and get that first round pick back. I've even heard maybe Alvin Kamara to the Rams. I don't know. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, they're going to have to do something because the Saints are stuck. We had Matt Moscona on who covers it down there in New Orleans, and he's like, dude, if you look contractually and from a cap standpoint with what the Saints did, they're stuck unless they make some major moves. I think at some point, I think the Jameis Winston experiment's over. I mean, I hate that the guy gets hurt, but you just can't count on him. You try to count how many seasons are you going to waste on Jameis Winston?
Mm-hmm.
Like how many are you going to do it before you realize it's not? It's like how many times are you going to go back to her before you realize you guys are toxic and it's never going to work? Like at what point? I mean, the Saints have to realize it. I think the Raiders money line today may be the best bet on the board. Or excuse me, -2.5. Get some plus money there. They're -1. Mowgli, stop whining. I'm petting you while I'm talking about football, man. What else do you want from me?
How about this one right here? How about Titans? How about Titans at Texans? Ryan Tannehill's not going to play. The Titans are going to start Malik Willis.
Yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting game. The Texans, if you're going to have to start a backup quarterback, playing the Texans is probably a good bet against it. It's going to be a lot of Derrick Henry. You tell me the rushing yards in this game, I'll tell you how they do, because Malik Willis, we know, is a runner as well. I think you're going to see a lot of zone read, a lot of RPOs, a lot of sprint out with pick plays and early downs to get into 2nd and 5, because you don't want to have to rely on Malik Willis going on the road early in his career as an NFL quarterback and having to throw you to a win. That is the last thing that the Titans need. Who is going to step up outside of just Derrick Henry in that offensive line? And the Titans defensively, you got to shut Davis Mills down. You've got to find a way to shut him down, which teams have been able to. I mean, you look at the Texans, they're 1-4-1. If the Titans can find a way to sneak through this game, I don't care if they win it by 1. I don't care if they win it by 2 or if they win it by 200. To get to 5-2 with the way it's looking in the division right now, it would be massive. These are one of those landmine games that we talk about in the NFL, where it's like, oh my goodness, I was 1 foot away from stepping on a landmine that might have blown the season up, but we're able to get past it. Now I'm back in the Jeep going back to get some chow.
Titans and the Lions kind of opposite directions there. You know, where you saw an early start by the Lions have fallen off with 4 straight losses. Tennessee kind of the other way around. Look, August David would be shocked right now, but October David's really excited about this giant Seahawks game right now.
Oh my goodness! I mean,
another game in the 425
2 great stories. I mean, it's story time over here. You know what? I like the Seahawks at home.
You're not crazy.
Geno Smith and the Seahawks at home.
You're not crazy. My gut tells me that too. But honestly, if you can get the Giants with the way they've been playing football, all they do is keep winning. You can get them at plus money right now.
They keep winning the same way.
Or you could even take them on the line at plus 3.5 for -115. Like, I don't think you're crazy either way on this. It should be a great football game.
They keep winning in the same way. It's like close game, get down early, 4th quarter dominated. That's the Giants formula. Keep it close. Get us to the 4th quarter and let us do our thing. And I think that's one of the best compliments that you can give a team. But I do like the Seahawks at home there. All right. Still going quickly here. Patriots at Jets. Patriots, 3-point favorite on the road. Give me the Jets money line. Defense, special teams, the Cougar hunter, Zach Wilson. I like the Jets to win this game straight up.
Who's going to play quarterback for the Patriots?
It's Mac Jones looking like.
Yeah, you don't think Bailey Zappi plays in this game?
I wouldn't be shocked if he played, but I think
Hmm.
Mac Jones is going to start. I mean, if Zappi wouldn't have gone off a cliff at the end last week, I think he may have started this week. But I think Mac's going to be the guy in this one. It's going to be very interesting to see. But I like the Jets, Jets, Jets,
Jets,
Jets,
Jets,
Jets.
Jets. Again, that's a divisional matchup that'll have postseason implications. Another divisional matchup, 49ers at the Rams. We've seen that Rams
Oh,
team just struggling. The offensive line is atrocious. The 49ers haven't exactly lit it up, but they do add Christian McCaffrey. I like the 49ers on the road in this game. What say you?
You know, part of me says, Jake, take the 49ers, even with Debo Samuel out. Take the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey. They're really going to rely on him, especially in the red zone. But man, sometimes you got to trust the spidey senses. If they're tingling, like all of a sudden, like, what? Wait, why is my hand sticking in this wall?
What
Like,
did you
why am
see?
I able
What
to go
sign did
up
you
it?
see?
Yeah, I like the Rams.
Okay.
I like the Rams at home today.
Yeah.
Everybody, and look, I know 3-3, coming off the Super Bowl championship, not playing up to the Matt Stafford standard. But I just feel like Henderson may go off at running back today. And I know you say, Jake, well, the Niners, they should be able to stop the run. You think they'd be able to stop the run? I feel like the Rams find a way. This is a rivalry game, okay? This is a rivalry game, one of the best in the NFL. And one of the ways you can turn your season or maybe get a little bit of hope back if you're the Rams is to be able to beat a 49ers team that went all in to go to the Super Bowl. Similar to what you did last year. They're trying to take a Rams path. Let's put the Frankenstein team together. Let's connect the arms and the legs. Let's put a face on them, Abby normal brain in the head, and see how it rolls when we let it out of the city. I like the Rams. I think Cooper Kupp and Henderson, Darrell Henderson, the running back for the Rams, go off today. Give me the St. Louis Rams at home.
All right. How about Commanders at Colts? Sam Ellinger from Texas will get his first start at quarterback.
Man, what a great game to talk about. This is such a great game to talk about. So excited to watch Taylor Heineke play Sam Ellinger in the hey, my dad played in the NFL once bowl. Part of me wants to take the Colts because Sam Ellinger somewhat can run. Will it help with Jonathan Taylor? I just feel like this is going to be an ugly, low-scoring game. Shocker with the Commanders and the Colts. But I think the Commanders, with get your hands off my Heineke, does a good job of going in there. I think Ellinger turns the ball over a couple times. Give me the Commanders. Mix Antonio Gibson with Brian Robinson. I think it's a heavy run game at the end that gets them over the top. Is Wentz starting today? Actually, is Carson Wentz going to play in this game? We need to look at that because
I think he's out.
If he's out, I mean, Heineke came in and won last week. That was at home. They kind of had to wait him out. This game is not one I would get super excited about if I loved football. I think this is one that either Commanders fans or Colts fans are really going to enjoy. But outside of that, it's just super duper mid.
Well, you're braver than me if you're going to take one of these teams. I'm going to stay away from this one.
You're saying, yeah, I'm staying away from this one.
I'm going to stay away from this one, but I'll tell you because it's 2022 and the entire world is crazy right now. Somehow, some way, that'll be the most interesting game of the day. That's something.
Oh, for sure. No, that game will be 63-60.
No. That game will be the most fun game you've ever seen in your life because the world is crazy, and that you can bet on. But then prime time, Buffalo Bills against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Man, can the Pack keep this thing close or what?
When they put this game on the schedule before the season, you thought, woo.
Mm-hmm.
Woo. That one could have some big implications for two teams that there's a lot expected out of because I guess, people thought the Packers were going to get a receiver or make a move to get an adult in the room at some point, which they didn't do. You got to take the Bills in this one. I don't see how the Packers are going to be able to manufacture enough points, even if they play well on offense. I don't think the Packers can score enough points against the Bills. The defense, as we know, hasn't been the weakest point for the Packers. But again, when you add this onslaught of Buffalo with what they have, whether it's Gabe Davis, whether it's Singletary, whether it's Josh Allen in the run, whether it's Stefon Diggs, it doesn't matter that they have a ton of talent. Give me the Bills. Packers go to 3-5. Matt LaFleur, I mean, they picked you up as the prodigal son. A lot of people were happy when you got the job after Mike McCarthy was Gonzo the Clown to Dallas. But again, you really haven't come through, and Aaron Rodgers is not getting any younger. So I just don't think the Packers have enough weapons.
No, I agree with you. I like the Bills big here. But I'm trying to look at the chat right now. I guess we have some bots in here. Cool. We have some bots in the chat. Nice.
Yeah, let's kill them.
The Booster Club saying, "Get out of here, bots."
Get out of here, bots.
John Kruger, Pack won't keep it close versus my Buffalo Bills.
Look, I don't think you're crazy. I don't think that's going out on a limb. But speaking about keeping it close, Cone went 3-2-1 yesterday. Hit
Nice.
3 dog bets.
Did you?
Up in the unit? Dude, I want to see what my dog bet percentage is that I've hit in college football. It's got to be ridiculous. Like last week, I've hit all of them like most weeks. I just the dog bet, just the plus money bets. So here's what I'm going with today. You know, sometimes you got to stare the dragon in the eyes. Give me the Falcons -2.5 at home against the Panthers. That's going off at -157 on the alternate line. Give me the Vikings, Cardinals over 50. I'm feeling this game could be a 31-24 type game, 31-27, 28-24 type game. So over 50 at +103. So plus money bet. Then the Eagles -11.5 at home. I just don't see a way in which the Eagles aren't able to really just out-talent a much less talented, if that's the best way I can put it, Steelers team that's young. I do love Kenny Pickett, Najee, and Pickens. That three-headed monster. Claypool's nice. Deontay Johnson's nice. I just don't think they have enough, and the Eagles are just absolutely on fire right now. Like them at home, -11.5, and the Phillies are coming back home after stealing one on the road against the Astros. It's a hot time to be a Philly fan. Just don't throw snowballs at Santa this year. Then the Jets, +3.5 at home, -128. Didn't take him as a dog bet. Thought maybe this one could be weird. I do like the Jets to win the game, but give me the Jets +3.5, -128 on the alternate line. Then the Bears, +8 on the road at the Cowboys. Dak Prescott still getting back. I like the Cowboys to win this game, but I feel like it could be a little bit closer than what people think. Maybe a touchdown win, maybe a little bit more of a sweat than the Cowboys think, kind of like the Lions were a little bit last week. I know it was Dak's first game back, so give me the Bears +8. That's at +105 on the alternate line. Then my last bet, Cone, I haven't done this all year. I'm going to do an anytime touchdown score parlay. How about that? Give me Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders, and Tony Pollard to all score a touchdown today.
Let me guess what that is. Let me guess what that's going on.
What is that?
Plus 1,100.
Wow. Plus 1156.
There we go.
156. You were about
there
right
we
on
go.
it.
That would be a nice little hit.
We're gonna dabble. So yesterday I missed Syracuse, tied Ole Miss -3. Missed South Carolina -2.5, but hit Florida +22.5 at +100. Penn State +14 at +100. San Diego State +8.5 at +105. That's how you get into the green and stay into the green.
All right, boys. 4-2 yesterday. I'm glad you've had success with your dog picks because I have not. Seems like every pick I'm missing here has been my dog pick. So yesterday I took the alternate line on the Iowa Northwestern game for the under at 37. Iowa decides to figure it out and missed that one. And then, of course, I took the Buckeyes on the alternate line at +100, -16.5. Look, Buckeyes, if you're not going to cover, just go ahead and lose. You know, that's the way I feel about it. But today, still went 4-2. Today, give me the Eagles, but I like it just under a touchdown, -6.5. That's at -199, right on our line there. Patriots, Jets under 42.5, -146. I want the Raiders money line, just like we talked about. That's -130 right now. 49ers money line at the Rams. That's -110. I'm going to go ahead and take the points with the Giants here. I almost went money line, but I'm going to take the +3.5 with the Giants. That's at -115. And then the Bills, I'm going to get the Bills on an alternate line, -12.5 for plus money at +102.
I like it. Let's see if we can't get hot. Baby Cone's going to place his bets. Sick Blaine is going to post his bets. He should. Texas Ed says, Jake, I nominate your alternate personality as Human Torch. Flame on! Flame on. I will be the Human Torch. I'm always lit and on fire and burning with desire and other things. Jimbo Eagle, question for Crane and Company. How many tables should I jump through today at the Bills Stadium tailgate? You better do at least one, Jimbo, and I want a video of it.
We need a video.
I want a video of it with a shout out to Crane and Company, and then you launch. I love Crane and Company. Then launch. I think that's
playing that on the show.
We'll play it on the show all day. Speaking of, remember, we do have a mailbag. You can find that DW Crane mailbag at dailywire.com. Send your questions there as well on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Make sure you like and subscribe. The channel's doing great. Appreciate you guys. Let's go ahead and get it to 30K by the end of this week. Just hit over 25. Let's go ahead and get that to 30K. Make sure you hit that like button. And the Lakers are 0-5, Cone. Lakers, don't you just hate it?
No, I'm
don't you just
I'm
hate
crying.
it for LeBron?
I'm crying myself to
I
sleep
hate it
every
for
night.
LeBron. It's just the worst. He's doing better than Brittany Griner is right now.
Did you hear LeBron said he can no longer be a Cowboys fan because the ownership prevented players from kneeling during the national anthem, so he's now a Browns fan. I'm talking about the same Browns, Jake, that signed Deshaun Watson to $230 million guaranteed despite the 24 sexual assault allegations. That's the LeBron
that's
James.
fine. That's fine. Well, it's just like you can talk trash about American stuff while getting rich off Chinese slave labor. So that's the same guy who does that. I mean, who cares what LeBron thinks? If he wasn't good at basketball, he wouldn't be good at anything. But let's look at the chat here as we wind up. I just traded Jimbo. You just traded Russell Wilson in fantasy for a box of Honey Nut Cheerios. You got a raw into the deal. Should have got 2
I was
boxes.
wondering how that came up because Troy Jacobs said Honey Nut. Wait, hold on. It moved. Honey Nut Cheerios are solid.
Look, I love Honey Nut Cheerios. If we're ranking cereals, let's be honest. All right, we all know number 1 is Reese's Puffs.
Reese's Puffs, not
we
Cinnamon
all know
Toast
that's
Crunch?
number 1. We all know Cinnamon Toast Crunch is number 2.
Okay.
And we all know that what am I forgetting? Number 3. Why am I losing my mind? Number 3 for me would be Lucky Charms. Okay. Those are the top 3 cereals. If you like anything else other than that top 3, 1, you're wrong. And 2, you need to trust me on this. In the chat, what is your favorite cereal? And if you say honeycombs, get out.
How do you feel about shredded wheat?
What did you just say to me? I'd rather get my ass jumped by a group full of midgets than that.
Or a group full of Michigan State players in the tunnel.
It's true. I just look, and when it comes down to cereal, how is there a better cereal than Reese's Puffs? Let's be honest.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch for my money.
Dude, what is the best cereal though to drink the milk after? Cinnamon Toast Crunch milk, that French Toast Crunch.
Cocoa Pebbles. Cocoa
Pebbles. That milk off Cocoa Pebbles. Crispix?
Fruity Pebbles, get off my lawn.
Pebbles is gross.
Fruity Pebbles, get off my lawn. Cocoa Pebbles here all day.
Special K with strawberries, not bad, but I'm also not a middle-aged suburban woman, so
all right,
I don't want that.
I've seen enough here. We have to do a top 5 cereal list this week.
We have to do a top 5 cereal list. But honestly, like and Steven, I'm just kidding with you. I know you're not a middle-aged suburban woman, or are you? It's 2022. Who knows? I don't think he is.
See, JJ said Frosty Mini Wheats. See, he gets it.
Frosty Mini Wheats are disgusting. Frosty Mini Wheats are disgusting.
Look, because you get a little bit
Honeycombs
of sugar,
is
and you
absolute
also feel
trash.
A little better about yourself.
Fruit Loops is good, Darby Lou. I'll give you that. Fruit Loops is good. Fruit Loops is definitely top 10 for me. But just like Rice Krispie treats, that cereal, you get snap, crackle, and pop. God, it's like we used to have this thing like. I used to love eating bacon in the morning. Wait, I still do. What? Like hearing bacon like crisp, like that sound, or maybe hearing the Rice Krispies, when you pour the milk in, it's like it's like jazz, right? When you hear it's like it's like that. That's like I just love that in the morning. Nice. Hey, Stephen Moore said, "But I am suburban." That's pretty funny.
Oh, I used to eat bacon in the morning. I still do, but I used to too.
I used to, and then I still do. It's like that players only meeting I had that I was there for.
That was important because your team.
Yeah,
really
look, fantasy today. Look, it's coming down to it, man. Look at the standings.
I need revenge, man, against Andrew Clavin. Andrew Clavin got me in the opening
Tell
round.
everybody who's out for you today.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it, man. Austin Eckler's on a bye. David Njoku's out. Jamar Chase out 4 to 6 weeks, but the Bengals didn't put him on IR. Look, it may be a bloodbath. It may be that, but I still feel pretty good about it. Joe Burrow's in. I did pick up Tyler Boyd. I still have Nick Chubb. Josh Jacobs moved him up into that starting role rather than the flex position. Let's see what CeeDee Lamb does. I need you to start contributing to the team. And then I'll tell you what I did, okay? I was tired of watching the Kyle. Even though I had David Njoku starting and he's out now, I decided to go ahead and pick up Taysom Hill. All right. I know you could get a 1-point game, you could get a 35-point game, and you really don't know, but I knew what I was going to get from Kyle Pitts, and that's an automatic 3. So I feel like I'm going to try and take the upside of Taysom Hill, starting him at the tight end position, just trying to figure out what to do at the flex, Jake. I have Jacoby Myers I could start, or I could go with Josh Reynolds. Sounds like Michael Thomas is continuing to not play football, which is disappointing, but
he's the Anthony Davis of the NFL.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Oh, wait. So hold on. Here we go. Travis Over, Peanut Butter Crunch, Crispix, Rice Krispies, Frosted Shredded Wheat, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That's such a crazy combination of cereals. Boo Berries, Emmanuel C. How about no? What does Dr. Eva say? How about no? Boo Berries more like ooh berries.
Darby Lou didn't get my joke. She said, David, you ate bacon yesterday. I said I used to eat bacon.
He said he still does.
I still do, but I used to too.
Darby just proved you right. Don't you love when that happens? Like
Exactly.
Very rarely am I right and Reed's wrong. Or very rarely, we call this the great bald eagle situation. You don't see those huge bald eagles except very rarely. The times where she was actually wrong, but in her wrongness, it proved me being right even more. Those are the times you really got to savor. Speaking of bacon, you really got to savor those because those don't come around. It happened a couple of weeks ago, and I just sat there and really – for about 30 to 45 seconds, enjoyed me being right and her being wrong, and by her being wrong, reinforced how right I was. Those are the victory laps. You talk about, don't run reverse pass when we're up 30. Okay, well, when that happens, I'm running reverse pass when we're up 30. Okay, I'm dancing on the star. I'm waiting in the tunnel. I'm flipping the fans off as I walk in the tunnel. When that happens, I'm going to let you know it. And she's good enough about letting me ride on that. It's the truth. Darby Lee says, I always admit when I'm wrong. Yeah, right, Darby. Let's be honest. Does any woman admit when she's wrong? She might. I don't know.
Hardly ever, she said.
Yeah, just hardly. I was about to say, Reed's never been wrong in her mind, in her life. But here's what I did today, Cone. All right, so I'm going up against Bickley at Morning Wire. Right now, guys, we're tied basically for second in the league. The top four make the playoffs. We all know it's about getting in the playoffs. That's what it's about. Just get me in the game when it matters, coach. Don't let me see the basket or it's going in. That's how it works around here. Here's what I got. Kyler Murray starting. We got to figure it out at some point. All right, we've done good enough. You've kind of game managed, and I hate that term, me to this point. I need you to start going off. Okay, I don't need any, D-Hop's out, the new Call of Duty's dropping. You take your little Ewok guys out there, you run around, you give me a lot of points, and you run a couple touchdowns in there. All right, Derrick Henry. Malik Willis is in there. Somebody's got to be a hero. It needs to be you. Couple touchdowns, 130 yards. They're focusing on you, but they always focus on you. It's the Titans. You focus on Derrick Henry, build it from the inside out. We've still been fine. Don't let me down. Then I kept – here's where I'm at right now. All right, and I probably should have played Travis Etienne. He's got 11 points right now, but I kept Aaron Jones in because if the Packers are going to have any offense, it's got to go through him against the Bills. All right, so he had 33 points last week. I can't take you out after scoring 33 points last week. How do I have any credibility for any of the rest of the guys? That I'm looking at the team. How are they ever going to trust me again if I'm taking them out after scoring 33 points? I can't look Derrick Henry in the eyes like I did last week when we met up and say, listen, I just need you to play good and trust me, and then take somebody out after 33 points. That's not how this organization works. So Deebo Samuel's out. All right. Had Adam Thielen on the bench. Everybody's talking Justin Jefferson. Let's take away Justin Jefferson. Oh, there's Haru, the great white ninja, sneaks around, scores 2 touchdowns, somehow got 80 yards. Would be a great day for Adam Thielen to get 20 points. Please, Adam, don't be the stereotype. Impress me. Jalen Waddle. All right, here we go. We know quick game. They want to take away Tyreek. You waddle your ass in the end zone for a touchdown. Need those extra points. You've been playing better than you did. I gave you a reprieve because Tua was hurt, and they put in some guy named Skyler, who you never trust a guy named Skyler. I gave you the benefit of the doubt on that. Tua's back. I need you to ball out. All right. Then my tight end, Travis Kelce. Look, we're on a bye week. All right. We're on a bye week for the Chiefs right now. Travis Kelce's doing a great job. Rest up. Drink some Capri Sun. Watch Red Zone with me. Shout out Scott Hansen. But look, TJ. All right. We know the offense isn't super explosive for Detroit, but I need you to change that. Long hair, don't care. I don't need 30 points from you. Give me 15. I just need you to be good. The Lions need to target him, play action off DeAndre Swift. Amon-Ra St. Brown's taking a lot of the targets away, but I think TJ in the red zone may sneak one. Then give me Tony Pollard with Zeke out to ball. Self-explanatory. Evan McPherson, a lot of field goals against the Browns. Love this matchup with Evan McPherson. Think he's going to kick at least 3 field goals. Then the Cowboys defense at home against the Bears. Justin Fields, if we were talking about a reading level for a quarterback, he's still on Matt Christopher books. He's not there yet. I like the Cowboys at home.
All right, so I have a little update here. Carl Dunn's in the chat saying, what about the big fight after the Michigan-MSU game? So I have a message here from my Michigan insider. I thought it was Andrell Anthony possibly earlier, who was that Michigan player. He's saying, I guess number one, Jaden McBurrows got clubbed from behind, and then all those dudes from Michigan State pounded on him. Something happened to another player too. One of them has a broken nose. So that's what I have right now.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Everybody just calm down. Let's see. Remember when I asked if I should take Jonathan Taylor with the first pick? Well, that turned out great for everyone else. Scott, like that's one of those things, man. Like you had to. You're basically everybody took Jonathan Taylor with the first pick. Like you can't foresee that. That's what makes fantasy football so tough. But you didn't make the wrong move. Sometimes making the right move has the wrong result. And that's the worst part about it. That's the thing that sucks the most. I'll give you a great example. In our fantasy league last week, Ben Shapiro's playing, Bennett is playing Cone.
No, it was Shapiro was playing Clavin.
Shapiro was playing Clavin. I'm talking about the quarterback situation where the
who took away the quarterback. So Shapiro was playing Clavin, and Ben Shapiro's team had the Patriots, the Patriots defense, and the Patriots were playing the Bears. Mr. Clavin forgot to put a defense in, so Ben's team picked up the Bears defense to keep him on the bench because that was the only other defense.
Which is the right move.
Which was the right move. But then Ramondre Stevenson ended up putting like 24 points up.
Yep, and he still ended up losing. Sometimes you get the wrong result after you make the right move. And Scott, that's the one. Those are the ones that keep you up at night, as they say. But all right, Coney, you got anything else?
No, I mean, look, it's still Jonathan Taylor still has time to turn this thing around. Maybe Sam Ehlinger comes in there. And
the Colts are so back
for the Colts, and who knows? Maybe Jonathan Taylor ends up putting up a couple 35 pieces for you in the playoffs, and you win your league, huh?
Yeah. You never know. You never know. Scott says, I'm just glad I don't have to go to a WNBA game, which is what the loser of fantasy has to do. Please let it be Walsh. I think we can all agree. Please let it be Walsh. It's always funny in fantasy. It's more about who finishes in last and has to do that bet than it is about who wins. That's what makes it fun. All right. Clavin just got that Brady pre-2022 look. Hey, did you hear that Tom Brady's kids are dressing up as footballs as Halloween? So maybe he'll spend more time with them.
Stop that.
Look, it's just what I heard. That's just what I heard. Do the grapevine. I'm not a costume designer or anything like that. But make sure you guys are following us. Make sure you're subscribed. Christopher Ard with a $5 donation. Do you think Lincoln Riley will ever win a national championship playing his style? I don't know if it's as much about style as it is about his ability to recruit, to have a good enough defense to be able to win it. Not an elite defense, because you don't need an elite defense to win it. We've seen that in 2010 Auburn. We've seen that 2019 LSU. We've seen that with 2020 Bama. We've seen multiple cases. And now you look at this 2022 Tennessee team that doesn't have an elite defense, or maybe a TCU team that doesn't have an elite defense, or an Alabama team that doesn't have an elite defense. Can the defense be good enough? That's the question. Because if we're going to talk about style, why is Josh Heupel winning? Well, the defense has been good enough up to this point to get over those hump games that you need to get in the Natty. Oklahoma, when he was there, wasn't able to get over that hump semifinal game to get in, or get over that hump Iowa State game or Texas game throughout the season because they couldn't tackle anybody. So at the end of the day, that's going to be the question for Lincoln Riley. It's going to be more about the defensive line, the front seven that he can put together, as opposed to can they score points. We know you can score points. Can you stop other teams from scoring points? That's the question. Carl Dunn, does LSU have a puncher chance against Bama? Hell yeah. We're going to be talking about that one. We've got LSU at Bama, Tennessee at Georgia, and that let's just look 1 second.
Nighttime in Death Valley, boys.
Nighttime in Death Valley. Let's just look at little flavor savers before we get off here until next week, and then I'm going to go get my coffee and get ready to watch Red Zone and freak out for the next 7 hours. Next week we've got
Texas at Kansas State.
Yes. You've got Oklahoma State at Kansas, which that's an interesting game with what just happened. All right, you've got Ohio State's going to murder Northwestern. Tennessee at Georgia. We've got Alabama at LSU. We've got Wake Forest at NC State, which that ought to be an interesting one. And then some periphery games. You look at Texas at Kansas State, as you mentioned, Michigan State at Illinois. That should be interesting there a little bit, Coney. And UCLA's got to go out and play Arizona State. You got to feel good if you're TCU with Texas Tech at home. But from a top 25 standpoint, nothing outside of those first couple really jump out. But there's some sneaky ones. Syracuse got to go to Pittsburgh. Can they get off the schneid? The two losing games in a row. And then Clemson at Notre Dame, Coney. Is that the one? Dame.
Hey,
is that the one?
I don't know. I don't know about that. But we will see. And also Tuesday night Maction begins next week.
Oh, hold on. Rejoice. I feel like somebody just
Tuesday
handed me a
night
Jeffrey.
Maction.
Oh, rejoice. We got some. Take the over. Who's playing? Wait, I don't care. What's the over? I'm going to take it. But all right, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys, like I said, like and subscribe. Follow us on all social media. We go live every weekday morning from 7:30 to 9 Eastern. That's 6:30 to 8 Central. I don't know what time that is in Norway, but it's probably early as hell. So make sure you sub. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. We appreciate you guys. Chat was hot as usual. Should be a big week as we're grinding into the double-digit seasons of college football. Coney, you got anything before we leave?
No, brother. This was great, man. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Definitely. All right. And like the chances of Syracuse slowing down Notre Dame's run game, we're gone.